She was small, quick, and endlessly curious, a child in Oneshti who moved as if the floor were a sentence and her feet the punctuation. Nadia Comaneci did not come from a stage built for legends. She came from schoolyards, uneven parallel bars bolted into modest gyms, and a coach's focused gaze that noticed what others overlooked. An unusual relationship between fear and attention. Where fear lived in most children, attention lived in her. She didn't push through dread. She dissolved it with precision. Her discovery looked almost accidental. During recess, a young girl turning cartwheels drew the attention of Bela and Marta Karoli, but there was nothing accidental about what followed. The gym became a second home that asked for everything, and echoed back the truth of effort. It smelled of chalk and quiet vows. The lights seemed harsher in winter, the bars colder, the beam thinner. Yet in that narrow strip of wood, she found a world wide enough to contain ambition. Nadia learned that mastery is not a straight line, but a spiral, returning to the same skills with deeper understanding. She repeated until breath and movement were inseparable. She learned to count time not in hours, but in attempts. She learned the language of corrections, the humility of starting over, the miracle of one clean landing that justifies 100 imperfect approaches. And in the private economy of becoming, she began to trust that grace could be engineered. The body learns before the mind agrees. Nadia's life became a quiet negotiation with limits. Wrists strengthened by repetition, ankles steadied by thousands of invisible choices. She treated movement like grammar, each line a clause that could be tightened, each leap an exclamation point that had to be earned. Coaches corrected centimeters, and she responded with millimeters. Over time, the gym's metronome, the tap of a foot, the clap of a coach, became her heartbeat. There is a sovereign solitude to training that audiences never witness. It's not glamorous. The hands tear, the beam bruises, the bars bite back. She accepted the bargain. If she gave the work her whole attention, the work would return something larger than metals, an inner architecture capable of carrying pressure without cracking. Nadia's gift wasn't only elegance. It was consistency under surveillance. When doubt arrived, she answered with another repetition. She learned to breathe at specific moments in the routine so that breath itself became a skill. She learned that a toe pointed 1 degree sharper could make the air look cleaner. She understood that dramatic moments are stitched together by invisible details. And slowly, the world she built inside those details became stronger than the world that waited outside them. Montreal did not expect perfection. It expected winners. The apparatus looked the same as always. The audience murmured. The judges prepared. And across the arena, a 14-year-old approached the uneven bars with the calm of a practiced ritual. Nadia had learned to let silence do the talking. When she mounted the bars, gravity seemed to pause just long enough to reconsider its rules. She didn't overpower the apparatus. She conversed with it. A flight here, a turn there, lines unbroken, a landing that whispered finality. The arena heard it before the scoreboard admitted it. A collective breath, a second of awe, and then a number that made no sense. 1 $. It wasn't a mistake in her performance. It was a confession in technology. The board had never been asked to show a 10. Perfection was not in its vocabulary. Judges corrected the display, the crowd erupted, and a door opened that had always looked painted on a wall. Nadia would walk through that door again and again. 7 perfect 10s at those games. 3 Olympic gold medals in all around, uneven bars, and balance beam, plus silver and bronze that glowed like punctuation marks in a paragraph about possibility. The world didn't just witness victory. It witnessed the revision of an idea, that impossible is sometimes a failure of imagination, not ability. After Montreal, the world changed its posture around her. Cameras followed, expectations multiplied, and applause became another apparatus to master. Fame can loosen the bolts on a young life, but Nadia tightened them. She returned to training not as an escape, but as a compass. The discipline that built the moment now protected it. Pressure is not the enemy of grace. Panic is. Nadia learned to metabolize pressure. She created routines for her mind the way she had for her body. Simple sequences that steadied nerves and sharpened presence. The crown was heavy, but it rested on a spine already strengthened by years of exactness. Her answer to the noise was quiet work, the kind that builds toward the next clean landing. And beneath the spotlight's glow, there was still a teenager learning to be a person inside a symbol. She found brief sanctuaries, laughter with teammates, the relief of a routine finished, the stillness after the applause dissolves. She learned that mastery includes recovery, that even legends need rest, that saying no is a kind of training too. Fame came fast. Character had been arriving for years. 4 years is an eternity at the elite edge of sport. Bodies change, rules evolve, and competitors arrive with sharpened edges. In Moscow, Nadia returned not as a revelation, but as a standard. Consistency is a rarer feat than surprise. She stood on the floor, and the beam with a composure that only thousands of quiet repetitions can purchase. She won gold again on balance beam and floor exercise, and added silvers that spoke of the fierce arithmetic of competition. The scores told one story. Her presence told another. Mastery was no longer a spark, but a sustained flame. Proof that greatness is not an event, but a habit. The routines were cleaner, the lines more emphatic, the center of gravity deeper. A career measured by podiums can still be powered by private vows. Nadia kept her promise to the craft, to show up with integrity, to let beauty come from clarity, to make the extraordinary look inevitable. In doing so, she taught audiences an uncomfortable truth wrapped in elegance. Perfection is not a moment. It is a method. Athletes learn to leave. They leave childhood, comfort, certainty. Nadia also left geography. In 1989, she crossed borders at night, exchanging the familiar for freedom, carrying with her a past that could no longer hold her future. The journey was real and symbolic, a relocation of the body and a declaration of the self. In the years that followed, she reclaimed authorship of her story, settling into a life that honored both the girl from Onezh and the woman who needed a larger horizon. She partnered with communities, supported the Special Olympics, and became a voice for children, and for the kind of attention that builds confidence rather than fear. The medals remained bright, but the legacy broadened into service. Freedom asks what you will do with it. Nadia answered by building spaces where excellence and kindness could coexist. Gyms that taught not only form, but also dignity. Projects that used sport as a language of possibility. The balance beam had once taught her how to stand tall in a narrow world. Now she widened the world for others. The arc of a life is measured in more than scores. Nadia married Olympic champion Bart Connor, a partnership of peers who understood the strange math of pressure and joy. Together, they built a home around the idea that excellence is teachable and that confidence can be lent until it becomes owned. Their gym became a lighthouse for younger athletes learning to turn fear into focus. She became an author, a mentor, a symbol that traveled easily across languages and eras. When the sport later moved away from the perfect 10 scoring system, the number still belonged to her. It survived as metaphor, as a North Star for exactness, as proof that sometimes a standard becomes a story and the story becomes a standard. Time softened nothing essential. The same quiet determination that once steadied a landing now steadied new beginnings. For students, for communities, for anyone who suspected that their limits might be outdated. Nadia's life kept repeating its central lesson. Precision can be a form of love, given to a craft, offered to a moment, returned as hope. Perfection was never the point. Presence was. Nadia Comaneci did not break the scoreboard to celebrate a number, but to remind the world that precision is a path anyone can choose. She showed that greatness is a quiet, compound interest of attention, that courage can look like calm, and that a landing becomes inevitable when preparation has been fair and thorough. If you strip away the flags and anthems, what remains is a girl from Onezh who learned to organize her breath, her focus, and her courage into movement that made sense to the human eye. That is the real perfect 10, not an outcome, but an alignment. And it is not exclusive to gymnasts. It belongs to anyone willing to meet their craft with respect, to anyone rehearsing a better version of themselves, one careful repetition at a time. Comment below where you're watching from and what inspired you the most. Stay inspired and keep moving forward.